Yeah, we're down here at the state capitol today, hopefully to get a better understanding of what's going on in this new legislative session with this HB 1002 bill, or the Senate bill number 2, the Truth Sentencing and Prison Reform Act that Sarah Huckabee and her constituents is putting into play. What we see in the bill is not no truth. What we see going on in this bill that Mr. Gazaway and Gilmore, Senator Gilmore, is sponsoring, will give longer sentences, misdemeanor for parole, sending them back to prison. It don't matter if you've been out of prison 500 years, you catch a misdemeanor, they want to send you back to prison. They've already got funds to build a 1,000-bed prison. Now they want to implement a 3,000-bed prison. But they call that a prison reform bill. How can prison reform be anything associated with longer sentences? Now, we agree with eradicating criminal behavior in our society, right? But what about those who have gone to prison, spent 10 to 15, 20 years rehabilitating themselves or habilitating themselves? What is the program that you have for them? You're talking about longer sentences, more bed, right? More taxpayer money being spent. But give us a solution to getting people out of prison that have been down for many years, reform themselves, and need a second chance. That's the bill that we want to see being implemented.
One of the main focuses is trying to find people to not support Ms. Huckabee's so-called Truth and Sentencing Act. It's a very deceptive name because there's no truth in it. Mostly it entails longer sentences, more prisons, and also parolees with long parole sentences, even catching misdemeanors and returning back to prison. There's no truth in that. What we've been trying to do is find some fairness and close the disparity gap in sentencing. Instead of people getting 70% and 100%, we're trying to get people have a second chance of life. They've also already broken ground on a 1,000-bed prison, but you have some Republican senators that want that raised to a 3,000-man prison, when Arkansas's prison population is already 17,000, and they say it's like 5,000 to 6,000 over already. So the thing that we're trying to do is find some support for Act 539 so we can loosen the belt and ease some of the tension of prison, and also trying to find some assistance with the prison reform so there could be accountability for the conditions that the brothers and sisters go through in the Arkansas penal system. Okay, we can talk about it. We can talk about this guy named the state Senate President, Bart Hester, representative of Cave Springs. He the one that has indicated and is backing the bill to promote more beds. It's already strapped capacity. Right. So we thinking if you're the Senate President, that means you're gonna have Senate influence. Right. So these things already be done behind closed doors without the taxpayers or common citizens even knowing.
So let me ask you this: the bill, one of the guys are from Croston, the other from Paragould. These are little country towns, right? Yes. Now, where are the prison being built? The jails? Because they already they started this a few years back as far as the breaking the ground for the new jails. Yes. Yeah. So where are they being built?
I'm not sure. They said they wanted one to be built in the West Memphis area. One was in the Newport area. I know those two for sure. They bid on these prison spaces because locking bodies up means jobs. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. Prison is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Right. So a lot of people are saying, hey, we'll take the bodies, just give us the jobs. Right. And that's why there is no prevention. I think that from ground roots, what we need to do, like we do ourselves with the work in the community, is trying to prevent people from going to prison. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's great we do a lot of work getting people out of prison and allowing them the opportunity to stay out of prison. Right. That's been our job from day one. Right. And I love you for that. Right. Seriously. So the thing that we need to do is most definitely, they back in session. They're probably
1 o'clock.
Now 12:30, they're probably getting ready.
Getting ready, right.
Yeah, that's old. They show old footage. So another thing we're doing is we're trying to view and catch a feel of the atmosphere in that, because there's nothing comparable to understanding and feeling energy.
Right.
And when we go in there, we see what kind of energy they have. Are they for the people or they against the people?
Right.
We vote the people in and we don't know exactly, we really don't know what they're doing or what their purpose is or what they do behind the closed doors.
Our problem is not with them wanting to eradicate crime in the community. Our problem is that you're focused more on eradicating crime than you are figuring out how to rehabilitate the people that commit crime. Because a lot of the recidivism comes from people who are homeless, come from people who are on drugs, come from small criminal elements, right? But you got people with violent crimes who have went to prison years back, been in there 25, 30 years, but when they get out, they stay out.
That's right.
Right? So why are you deciding to figure out how to lock people up for longer sentences?
It's even with the short timers, these are her words that said over the past 3 years, Arkansas has released more than 4,300 prisoners via early parole through the Emergency Powers Act, which allowed the governor to ask the state parole board to expedite the parole process for prisoners within 12 months of already being eligible of parole. Now, Sarah Sanders said, would I love for that demand not to exist? Absolutely. I don't think there's anybody that finds this to be a fun and exciting thing, but unfortunately, it's the reality of where we are. We are at max capacity, and we have to make sure that we can secure our community, she said. She said there will be constraints while new prison beds are being constructed. She stopped short of sharing too many specifics in this area, but Sanders acknowledged that short-term solutions are being considered. So what do you think those short-term solutions are?
Being considered as far as releasing people from prison or locking people up?
That's what it is. She says she don't want to let people out on the Emergency Powers Act. She would love that not to exist. For the governor to say, hey, I need y'all to let 1,000 people out that's a year eligible for their parole. She would love for that not to exist.
Wow.
Yes, those are her exact words.
So she don't want to let you out on the Emergency Power Act. So that means she needs to build more beds. In order to have more beds, you got to have more facilities, right? Correct. In order to have more facilities, so what she's trying to do is, on the back of the poor people, create jobs for maybe her people or just people in general. I don't know. I've never met her. Hopefully, we'll get an opportunity to sit down with her, But from what I'm seeing is she's creating jobs, avenue for jobs for somebody, right? And from looking from a Republican standpoint, I'm sure that somebody would be her people. But we most definitely need to figure out how to either sit down and have a conversation with her about her new prison reform bill, find somebody who can sit down with her and have a conversation, because they're not talking to us about prison reform, right? They don't want to talk to us about what it is that we can do to better the recidivism rate. But we have the solution.
Yes. I've been to prison myself. I did 23 years in prison. I've been out a little over a year. I work. I've not been in any trouble. I don't do drugs. You get a chance to learn more about yourself and what not to do.
Right.
When you've been in prison that long, you don't want to go back to prison.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But she's saying, and in her words as well, that that she would like people, and this is a trip, to people be held accountable. She said, in addition to the capacity problem, is making sure people are held accountable and that there is actually justice and time is served and that they are sentenced to in the state of Arkansas. This is not typically the case right now, Sarah Huckabee Sanders says. These are her words about criminal justice. This is TBP, stand for Talk Business and Politics, that show that she was on CBS. So these are her actual words, not mine, from what I'm reading from. So what she's saying, now this is what they was voting on yesterday about the legislation affecting transgender students. That's what they were voting on yesterday about the drag.
That website.
It's a show. It's a show that comes on PBS called TBP, Talk Business and Politics. That's her right there, and that's an interview that she did. The era of Sarah Governor-elect Sanders lays out education and criminal justice roadmap. So a lot of people don't really pay attention to what's going on right under their nose.
upstairs at the
Senate Gallery.
Senate Gallery, going in to listen to some of the legislation that's being brought up for by the Senate hearing to see if they're going to be passed or not passed, or what the case may be. Is this the right way?
They recess on Thursday, March 16, 2023, and reconvene on Monday, March 27, 2023. Senate Concurrent Resolution 2. Calendar. Senate Concurrent Resolution 3 by Senator Love, designated the Hypothetical Cardiopathy Awareness Day to educate people about cardiopathy.
Now, as we can see, Lieutenant Governor Leslie Rutledge, right? She was the Attorney General. She jumped in the governor's race, right? But when she realized that Sarah Huckabee was running for governor as well, what did she do?
Dropped out.
She dropped out. And then what did she become? Lieutenant Governor of the state of Arkansas. They had a plan way before she started to run for governor. Sarah Huckabee has been chosen for this position way before the voters voted her in. Don't think that this is by chance, because nowhere in God's plan is this by chance. This is by design. Look at what I'm saying. Attorney General running for governor, dropped out of the governor's race, and became lieutenant governor. Be mindful of everything that's going on here when we talk about dealing with prison reform, right? Ain't nobody talking about Act 539. Republicans introduced a bill to do away with drag queens, men dressing as women, and women dressing as men in the public places here in the state of Arkansas, right? We have senators get up, some was for it, some of the senators was against it. But you don't hear anything talking about amending the Act 539. You don't hear any talk about, you hear prison reform, but what prison reform are they talking about?
Prison reform is locking more people up, longer sentences and no parole. That's the reform they're talking about.
You're not talking about letting people out. You're not talking about reforming prison, people in prison. You're not talking about reforming a system that's been in place ever since the early 1900s. You're not talking about reforming that. You're talking about prison reform based up on more prisons and more prison beds. To me, to lock more people up. Ms. Huckabee, all we want to do is sit down and have a conversation with you, because we already know you had a plan, right? There was a plan in place in order for Ms. Rutledge to be running for governor against you and decide to drop out. You win, she win. Now y'all got a plan for prison reform. We ain't heard no plan for prison reform since the Trump administration that was really for prisoners. So we hope that we can sit down and get a conversation with you and your administrative department about real reform. Because I'm a member of the Nation of Islam, and in the Nation of Islam, we don't spend no money to reform the people. We utilize the information at hand. So sit down and talk with us. We're going to bring some people in out of Houston, Texas, high-ranking officials of the Nation of Islam, and we're going to bring some out of Chicago who's a prison reform minister in the Nation of Islam. Brother Abdullah Muhammad, so that we can have a real conversation about true prison reform. Not building prisons, not building prison beds, and for sure not hiring people to warehouse our people. It's over with. You yesterday supporting the SB 43 bill, right?
Yes, sir.
We have one, Act 539, right? It was passed into law, and we're trying to get it amended. Are you going to support us on that?
From 18 to 21?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I'm supporting.
Got it?
Thank you, sir.
Supporting us.
Very much. Well, could you get some of your constituents to support it? Because I'm a person. I did 23 years in prison myself. I went to prison as a youngster. I haven't returned. I was 22 actually, but I did a lot of time with those guys there. You know what I'm saying? I did 23 years in 2 units, in Commons unit and Varner unit. Just those 2 years, I met a lot of guys with life sentences that are totally rehabilitated themselves and deserve to be in the community. That's the next workforce.
You can't buy alcohol alcohol until you're 21. You can't buy now tobacco until you're 21. There's a whole lot of things you can't do until you're 21 because your brain's not fully developed.
Right.
That's right.
So we can count on your vote.
Yes, sir.
What about your constituents? Do you have a couple of constituents with you that are willing to support you with this?
I'm
with
sure.
the vote?
I'm sure they. I have some. I don't know. Can't tell you off the top of my head. They might be.
We know Greg.
You mean
Lady.
my colleagues.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So yes, I'll talk to them. I know Greg Lake does.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Miss Linda Chesterfield, hopefully, and and the rest of them.
Yeah. I'm happy to work on it.
And we appreciate you, man. We
Thank you
really
very
do,
much.
because
Those guys
we
deserve
hear the Republicans talking about reform, right? But you're talking about reforming a system in reverse. Because if you're trying to reform a system in order to reform people, then you got to talk about not building beds, not building prisons, but you got to talk about real reform. 20 years, I did 14 years. I've been out 17 years. Have a conversation with me. 21 years about people that's been out.
The issue, it's not that we don't have enough beds. 17,000 beds is enough for a population of 3 million people. It's because we failed as a state in preparing people to lead productive lives when they get out.
Right.
And that's why there's a high recidivism rate and people have to go back. So the answer to me is not building more beds.
Right.
We have enough beds. The answer is doing better with the beds that we have.
And I'm gonna say this to you too, because going into the institution, you come off the streets broken, right? And then your first day in intake, they want to strip you of all your clothes, right? Have you spin around, have you bent over, and spread your butt cheeks, right? So when you do that to a man, you're automatically violating him in some type of way. So you go through the system, they don't try to rehabilitate you, they try to break you to control you. So you cannot let people that's being broken to control out in the society and not have nothing for them.
I do have a question though.
Yeah.
Why is Arkansas one of the only 2 states in the United States, Arkansas and Alabama, that do not pay their convicts for their work? I'm trying to figure out. There are only 2 states out of 50. There's no compensation for your time.
Me and my brother come to the state capitol today to find support for the Act 539 and to try to get an understanding of the HB 1002 or the SB number 2 bill. We talked to a few people, got a few responses, but we didn't get a total understanding of what's going on, right? So we got to stay down, keep our ear on the ground, and stay in their business, because they're always in our business. And hopefully we'll be able to get here in the month of April, do our prison reform rally here, introducing ourselves to Miss Huckabee, because Hutchinson understands our movement. Ms. Huckabee may not. So hopefully we can galvanize as much support, as many people, family members dealing with prison reform as we can in the month of April. Date will be forthcoming soon when we lock a date in with the Secretary of State office. But make sure that you put the month of April on your mind and in your hearts if you have someone incarcerated. Because if you don't get to moving right now, those of us who are out on parole, been out on parole, if we continue to let Sarah Huckabee do what she do in her administrative body of people, or her constituents, her workmates, co-workers, or whatever you want to call them, we're going to be in trouble, man. Because anytime you want to take a misdemeanor and take that misdemeanor and send somebody back to prison that's been out of prison for years, that don't make any sense to me. And it shouldn't make any sense to you. So make sure you lock April, the month of April, into your calendar so that we can get back down here. Everybody that can take off on a Monday to get here, hopefully we'll be able to bring some FOIs, some student ministers out of Houston. Hopefully we'll be able to bring the prison reform minister out of Chicago and the surrounding areas, members of the Nation of Islam, to help give us a push in what we got going on. Because it seems like they're not giving us the respect that we need. But I know one group of people that everybody is going to respect, because they know we know how to handle our business. And those are the members of the Nation of Islam. And not taking credit from anybody, or not trying to slight any other organization, but pastors, preachers, right? The majority of the people incarcerated are considered Christians. Is that right? So where are you at today? Come stand with us. Come help fight with us, because the majority of your congregation are mothers and fathers and grandmothers and uncles and cousins and sisters and brothers of those who are incarcerated.
True.
So please come get with us and help support the movement that we got for real and true prison reform if you are a true believer in Christ. Get with us in the month of April here at the state capitol to introduce ourselves to Miss Sarah Huckabee the way we do it. Thank you. Hopefully we can galvanize the support that we need.
Today was a productive day, especially with Clark not knowing that Arkansas was only one of 2 states that don't get paid don't pay their incarcerated people in the entire United States.
Because we don't talk about things like that, right?
I wonder how many other senators, and he supports the Act 539. So if he supports prison reform and he didn't know that, I'm pretty sure a lot of other people are not aware of that neither. But it was good to try to, gain some influence and support and show to show him that, hey, you're not supporting Act 539 alone, that we're here to assist you and your support with Act 539.
Right.
Because like he said, you can't buy alcohol till you're 21, you can't buy liquor till you're 21.